I was 28 and traveling for work, just another midweek trip to a city I didn't really know. It was a Tuesday, and my usual routine was simple: check into a hotel, grab a quick dinner, and catch up on emails before bed. Nothing unusual, nothing exciting, just the same old work grind. The hotel I stayed at was nothing fancy, a small chain tucked between a strip mall and a busy freeway. I had been there before, so I knew the layout. The lobbies smelled faintly of cleaner and cheap air freshener, and the elevators always made that soft, metallic groan when they moved. I didn't think much of it. I liked familiarity. It made me feel safe. That evening, I arrived later than expected. The sky was dark, the streetlights casting pools of yellow on the asphalt. The lobby was empty. Usually, there's at least one person at the front desk, but tonight it was just me and a faint hum of the air conditioning. The receptionist wasn't in sight, and the sign at the counter said to call a number if you needed assistance. I shrugged it off. Maybe they were on a short break. I grabbed my keycard and rode the elevator up to the 6th floor. The hallway lights flickered once as I walked down the carpeted corridor. Normally, I wouldn't notice such small things, but tonight I did. I passed room after room. The doors all closed, quiet. Too quiet. When I reached my door, I slid the keycard and entered. The room smelled the same as every hotel room I'd stayed in: faint carpet, slightly bleachy sheets. I set my bag down, flicked on the desk lamp, and tried to relax. Everything was normal, or so I told myself. Then I noticed it. On the edge of the desk, just barely in my peripheral vision, was a shadow. I turned, but the lamp was the only light on, and nothing else in the room could cast it. For a moment, I thought it was my imagination. But the feeling didn't go away. Something felt wrong, like someone was watching. I checked the windows. Nothing. The city outside was quiet, just distant traffic and the occasional honk. I tried to laugh it off, thinking maybe the stress of the day was making me jumpy. But that shadow stayed, shifting ever so slightly, though there was no one in the room. I told myself I was being paranoid. It was a normal hotel, a normal room, a normal night. And yet, a small voice in the back of my mind whispered that something wasn't right. That maybe, somewhere in the empty hallways or behind one of the closed doors, someone or something was waiting. I didn't know it yet, but this night, which had started like any other, was about to become one I'd never forget. And by the time I realized how close the danger was, it would already be too late to do anything but run. The hotel wasn't anything special. Just a modest chain in downtown Chicago, squeezed between a strip mall and a rundown office building. The lobby had that faint, recycled air smell, the kind that hits you the second you step inside. The carpet was a dull red with dark patterns, and the elevators always groaned softly, like they were tired of moving people up and down all day. On any other night, I probably wouldn't have noticed these little details. It was around 11 p.m. when I checked in. The streets outside were quiet, just the hum of distant traffic and the occasional siren far off. Inside, the hotel seemed even quieter than usual. The front desk was empty, which wasn't normal. A small sign asked guests to call a number if the receptionist wasn't present. I shrugged and used my phone to check in. Nothing in the lobby suggested anything was wrong. The normal routine felt oddly hollow, though. I was on a business trip, staying in the city for a 2-day conference. I'd spent the day in meetings and networking sessions, and all I wanted was a shower, some takeout, and a few hours of mindless TV before falling asleep. I'd stayed in this hotel before. The rooms were always clean, the staff professional, and the neighborhood quiet enough for a good night's rest. The elevator ride up to my floor was uneventful, though the dim lighting made the hallway feel narrower than usual. I passed closed doors, each identical, each silent. I thought about the other guests, probably tired couples, business travelers, maybe a few tourists. No one was in sight, just the soft hum of the lights above and the occasional distant sound of a car horn from outside. I reached my room, unlocked the door, and stepped inside. It smelled of faint bleach and carpet polish. The bed was neatly made, the desk clear except for a small hotel pamphlet. I placed my suitcase on the floor and turned on the desk lamp. The glow was warm and familiar, casting soft shadows across the room. I set my laptop on the desk, intending to catch up on emails. That's when I noticed him. Well, not exactly a person yet, but something out of place. A chair that had been slightly out of line, a faint scuff on the carpet, a door across the hall that I could have sworn was closed earlier, now slightly ajar. Small details, but enough to make me pause. I shook it off, blaming fatigue. I called the front desk to ask about late-night service and housekeeping. The line rang once and went straight to voicemail. No one was available. That didn't bother me too much. I was used to minor inconveniences. But the empty lobby and the quiet hallways made the air feel heavier, like the usual hotel background noise. TVs, chatter, elevator dinging had been sucked out. By the time I finished setting up my laptop and poured a glass of water, the hotel felt larger, emptier, and a little colder. My mind kept wandering to what could be lurking in those dark corners. Of course, logically, it was probably nothing. Just a long day, a quiet building, and my imagination working overtime. Still, a subtle unease settled in my chest. The kind that tells you everything seems normal, but maybe normal isn't always safe. I tried to focus on my laptop, but the silence in the room made it impossible. Every little sound seemed amplified. The hum of the air conditioner, the faint creak of the building settling, even the distant rumble of traffic outside. Normally, these noises would be background static, easy to ignore. Tonight, though, they felt different, sharper, like they were trying to tell me something. Around midnight, I heard it, a soft knock on the door. Not loud enough to be alarming, more like a polite tap. I froze, expecting housekeeping or maybe another guest by mistake. But when I peeked through the peephole, no one was there. Just the dimly lit hallway stretching in both directions, silent and empty. I shook my head and told myself it was probably a maintenance crew finishing late. I returned to my laptop, but the sense of unease lingered. A few minutes later, I heard footsteps in the corridor outside my door. Slow, deliberate, pausing occasionally. My stomach tightened. I pressed my ear to the door. Silence. Then a soft scuffing sound, like someone dragging their shoe along the carpet, coming closer, then fading again. I checked the windows. The street below was quiet, just the occasional car passing by. No one in sight. I told myself it was my imagination, but the hair on the back of my neck refused to settle. Something about the emptiness felt off. The shadows in the corners of the room seemed darker than they should have been, stretching unnaturally toward me. Then my phone buzzed on the desk. An unknown number. I stared at it for a long moment, my finger hovering over the screen. I didn't answer. Instead, I watched the hallway outside the door. Another knock, softer this time. Almost hesitant. I whispered to myself that it had to be someone else in the hotel, maybe a guest lost on the wrong floor. But the hallway was still empty when I looked. Minutes passed, but I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Every creak of the floorboards, every flicker of the light above, made me jump slightly. The shadows seemed to shift, as if they were moving with purpose. My mind raced through possibilities, but none of them made sense. A quiet building, a late hour, and still, something felt wrong. The last straw was when I heard it breathing. Not loud, not obvious, but slow, measured, coming from somewhere outside my door. I couldn't tell if it was real or my imagination, but my pulse jumped, and I couldn't move. It didn't match the rhythm of my own breathing. It wasn't mine. Someone or something was out there. I backed away from the door and grabbed the lamp from the desk. My hands shook slightly. I wasn't sure what I would do if whoever, or whatever, was out there came closer. The hallway lights flickered again, briefly plunging the corridor into darkness. And in that instant, I realized that I wasn't imagining it. I wasn't alone. Something was in the hotel with me, and I had no idea who or what it was. I stayed frozen behind the desk for what felt like minutes, my eyes locked on the hallway. The breathing had stopped, but the silence that followed was worse. Heavy, expectant. Every instinct in me screamed that someone was out there, waiting, watching, and the thought made my stomach twist. Then I heard it again. Footsteps. Slower this time, deliberate, echoing softly against the carpet. They started at the end of the hallway and moved closer, stopping just out of sight of my peephole. My pulse raced, each beat loud in my ears. I felt trapped. I could stay in the room and hope for the best, or try to run and risk being caught in the open. Neither option felt safe. I checked the door lock. It was secure, but suddenly, the small comfort of a deadbolt didn't feel like enough. The hallway was too long, too quiet, a doorknob somewhere nearby. My heart sank. Someone was testing doors. My door might be next. I crouched low, gripping the lamp like a weapon, trying to make myself small. I listened. A soft scrape on the carpet. A pause. Then a shadow appeared at the far end of the corridor, just for a second. My eyes strained to make sense of it. It moved quickly, and then vanished behind the corner. I whispered to myself, trying to stay calm. It's just a maintenance worker, just someone lost, but I didn't believe it. The way the shadow had moved, with purpose, like it was looking for something, or someone, it was looking for me. The phone buzzed again. Unknown number. I didn't answer, but I could hear a faint tapping on the wall, like someone running their fingers along it. Every sense was on high alert. I felt cornered, unable to escape without exposing myself. My room, once a safe space, now felt like a trap. I crept toward the bathroom, thinking I could lock myself inside if necessary. The hallway lights flickered again, plunging the corridor into darkness for a heartbeat. In that brief moment, I caught a glimpse of a figure just outside my room, a man in dark clothing, hood up, unmoving, staring. My breath caught. I pressed myself against the wall, hoping he hadn't seen me. The footsteps resumed, closer now, moving toward the other rooms on the floor. The sound of a doorknob turning made me jump, and I realized how easily he could end up at my door. I felt the walls closing in, the air heavier, my panic rising with every second. I crouched behind the bathroom door, listening to the faint scuffling of shoes on the carpet. It wasn't just someone wandering the halls. He was searching, and I didn't know why, or what would happen if he found me. Then I heard the softest, most deliberate whisper through the door frame. My name. Just my name. Calm, measured, but unmistakable. It froze me completely. The fear wasn't from the dark or the empty hall. It was knowing someone knew I was here. I realized I wasn't going to get a second chance. He was moving closer, faster now, and I had to make a decision. Hide, fight, or run. None of it felt safe, but staying still meant he could find me at any moment. I couldn't stay hidden any longer. The whisper of my name had vanished, but the footsteps were unmistakably closer. My hands shook as I gripped the bathroom door handle, considering my options. There was only one real chance. I had to run. I edged toward the main room door, heart pounding in my chest. The hallway was dim, shadows stretching unnaturally along the carpet. I peeked out and froze. The man was there, halfway down the corridor, hood up, face obscured, moving deliberately toward my door. His pace was slow, but there was a certainty in it that made my stomach drop. I bolted. My suitcase dragged behind me, bumping against the walls. The lamp slipped from my grip, but hit the floor with a crash I didn't even notice. The sound seemed to echo endlessly down the hallway. He reacted instantly, turning toward me, and for a brief second, I saw his hand reach inside his jacket. My heart stopped. I sprinted toward the elevator, sliding my keycard through the slot on the way. The doors were already opening, and I dove inside, slamming them shut behind me. My chest heaved, and my hands trembled. I pressed the lobby button over and over, as if the machine could hurry the doors faster than their mechanical pace. Then I heard it, the softest scrape against the elevator doors. Someone was trying to stop me from leaving. I could feel their presence, just on the other side, and panic surged through me. I pressed the button harder, willing the doors to close. Finally, they slid shut with a loud clang, and I sank to the floor, shaking. The ride down felt like hours. I pressed my face to the wall, listening for any sound. Nothing. Then the doors opened to the empty lobby. Relief hit me for only a second before I realized how quiet it was. No staff, no guests, just the faint hum of the air conditioning. I ran toward the exit, suitcase bouncing, heart hammering. Outside, the street was still quiet. The city lights offered some comfort, but I didn't stop moving until I reached a gas station across the street. I ran inside, gasping, and told the clerk what had happened. He looked at me strangely, then nodded and called the police. I stayed inside, trembling, watching the hotel from across the street. A patrol car arrived within minutes, flashing lights cutting through the dark. Officers went inside, and I could see them searching the lobby, the elevators, the floors above. I wanted to believe they would catch him. Hours later, one officer came out and told me the shocking truth. There had been a man hiding on my floor, in the shadows outside several rooms. He had a knife in his jacket. They didn't find him. He was gone. I left immediately, refusing to stay another second. My hotel key was in my hand, but I didn't even look back as I walked to my car. Every instinct told me he could still be inside, somewhere, waiting for the next guest, the next opportunity. I realized then how close I had come to something unthinkable. The calm, familiar hotel room, the place I had trusted, had been anything but safe. And no matter what the police said, I knew one thing for sure. The man had been real, and he had been watching me. I thought the worst was over once I made it outside the hotel. The streetlights and distant traffic felt reassuring after the silence of the corridors. I even started to calm down a little, telling myself I had escaped in time and that the police would handle the rest. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something had been off the whole time, something I hadn't realized. The police questioned me for what felt like hours. They took my statement, walked the floors, checked the cameras. Everything seemed ordinary to them. The elevators working, the hallway. Lights flickering, no sign of anyone when they reviewed security footage. Yet the officers kept exchanging glances, murmuring quietly among themselves. I couldn't understand why they looked concerned. Finally, one of the officers pulled me aside. "There's something you need to know," he said, voice low. "We've been investigating a series of incidents in this hotel for months. Multiple reports of someone hiding in the hallways, sometimes watching guests, sometimes following them into rooms. The man you saw, he's been here before. He knows the layout, he knows the staff. He's careful, almost always gone before anyone can catch him." I felt a chill creep up my spine. "So, he's done this before?" I asked. The officer nodded. "Yes. And the worst part? We think he might be living in the hotel, in empty rooms, closets, maintenance areas. We've found evidence that someone had been hiding on your floor for days, maybe weeks. Food wrappers, empty water bottles, a blanket. He wasn't just passing through, he'd been waiting." My stomach dropped. The soft creak, the faint scuffing of shoes, the whisper of my name. He had been doing this deliberately, every sound and pause calculated to make me panic. Every moment I thought I was imagining things. He was already there, unseen but fully aware of me. "What about the knife?" I asked. The officer's eyes darkened. "Recovered from a previous incident. He carries it to intimidate and control his victims. You were lucky. He may have been testing you, watching how you reacted, learning your routine. He could have hurt you or worse." I wanted to run, scream, disappear, but all I could do was listen and try to process the reality. This wasn't some random break-in or petty crime. It was methodical, calculated, predatory. Then the officer added the part that made my blood run cold. "We haven't identified him. No fingerprints, no clear footage of his face. He's careful, smart, and always slips away before anyone can intervene. We don't know who he is. Could be a guest, could be a staff member, we don't know. And, honestly, we might never know." I realized then that the entire night, the knocks, the whispers, the shadow in the hallway, was part of a much larger pattern. I hadn't just been unlucky. I had been singled out. And the terrifying part? He could still be inside the hotel, somewhere, watching, waiting for the next opportunity. For the first time, the full scale of the danger hit me. This wasn't a random incident that ended when I reached the lobby. This was a predator, patient and cunning, someone who knew exactly how to manipulate fear. And I had been right in his path. I thought I was safe once I left the hotel. I drove away, every traffic light and street corner a small comfort, a reminder that I was back in the world I knew. But the feeling of being watched didn't go away. It lingered like a shadow at the edge of my vision, subtle but persistent. That night, I couldn't sleep. I checked every lock, every window, every corner of my apartment, but my mind kept replaying the hallway, the shadow, the whisper of my name. I kept imagining him, just outside my door, patient and silent, watching me. I told myself it was over, but deep down I knew it wasn't. Over the next few days, I tried to convince myself that the police would catch him, that he was gone. But every time I closed my eyes, I could see that dark figure crouched at the end of a hotel hallway, moving just out of reach. The thought made my chest tighten, made my stomach churn. He wasn't just a memory. He felt real, still present, still waiting. Then I got a call from the hotel. The receptionist sounded nervous, almost hesitant. "Sir, we found some unusual things on your floor after you left," she said. My stomach dropped. Empty water bottles, a blanket, traces of someone staying there without registering. Nothing dangerous, but unusual. I hung up, my hands shaking. The realization hit me like a punch. He hadn't just been passing through. He had been hiding, observing, learning. And I had been the only one there at the wrong time. Someone else could have been next. Or maybe he was still there. I tried to go back to normal life, but it was impossible. Every time I stayed in a hotel, even well-known chains, even busy floors, I checked doors twice, listened to the hallway, stayed awake longer than I should have. Every creak, every flicker of light, every shadow made me flinch. Weeks later, I learned the hotel had an unsolved string of similar incidents. Guests reported strange noises, whispers, shadows moving in the hallway. The police had no leads. The man was never identified, never caught. And the hotel kept running, just as it always had, like nothing had happened at all. Sometimes, I catch myself imagining him, waiting in the next empty room, crouched in a corner, watching. I'll never know who he really was, or why he targeted me. And part of me worries that he's still there, somewhere, waiting for someone else to check in, someone else to notice the small, almost invisible signs of danger too late. I don't stay in hotels anymore if I can avoid it. But every now and then, when I'm forced to, I feel the same chill I did that first night. The unease, the sense that someone is watching. And I remember one simple, terrifying fact. I was lucky. He didn't find me, or maybe he let me go. And I keep wondering, how many people isn't he letting go?